Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite makes the process of becoming a published, best-selling author as simple as sipping your morning cup of coffee. You can learn more about Authors Unite at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today we have Brett Clemenson with us. He's the founder and CEO of Australia's leading recruitment agency, ALRA. So welcome to the show, Brett.
Hey, how you going?
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll dive right in. The first question I have for you is, what's the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
I thought long and hard about this, but the one that stands out to me, it's actually two stories. I didn't even take my own advice, but a brilliant story about my grandfather. He went to uni, right? He went to a private school, then he went to uni. He studied being a doctor or medicine, and he thought it was great. No one was telling him what to do. He didn't actually have to go to class if he didn't want to. There was exams, but no one told him he had to study. It was very different to the school mentality. So what ultimately ended up happening after his first semester was that he failed every single subject. And as a result, he got conscripted for the war. And I just love that story because obviously, he did not want to go to war, and being at uni studying medicine was quite important for the country. So they didn't touch those students, but as soon as you failed, he got conscripted. So I just love that story because he used to tell it to us. He's like, don't fail your subjects, you might end up going to war. Honestly, I should have taken that advice a bit more seriously. I had a very similar thing happen to me when I went to university. I mean, it's all about self-motivation, getting yourself there and passing these exams. And, back in another life, before I was doing what I'm doing now, I was actually in a band and we did some fun stuff. But I remember I was studying for this exam. I hated this subject, but I knew I just had to get a pass and I'd be okay. And I get a call from one of my bandmates and he said, mate, are you sitting down? And I said, why? And he goes, we just got told we're playing a gig with the Foo Fighters in 2 days' time.
That's awesome.
Pack your bags. We're going to the rehearsal studio. And I went, oh, bugger this. I don't need to study. I'm going to be a rock star. So, I kind of did that, did the gig. It was fantastic. Next day, had the exam, failed it miserably. Needless to say, I'm not a rock star. So I spat my nose in spite of my face, or cut off my nose in spite of my face. I had to go back and do that subject. So I should have listened to my grandfather. Don't fail. It's not worth it.
Great. Thank you for sharing this, dude. And that's awesome, man. Foo Fighters are sick. Next question I have for you is, what's the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
Do you know what? That's a really hard one to answer. But I simmered it down to, very simple logic, which is do everything with intent. I'm in recruitment. We've got teams of guys recruiting for staff. We do a lot of stuff on social media. We do a lot of stuff with advertising. We do a lot of stuff with people, scripts, and all that sort of stuff. So, where I see people fall on their faces is where they're kind of just going through the motions. They're getting it done. They're doing their job, which is fine. But the differentiator between, average and greatness can literally just be, let's just sit down for 2 seconds before you do any task and just think, what is the intent? What am I trying to get out of this? And it will change. It'll change everything you do. And that goes across, I reckon that's advice for across any industry or any sector or anything you're doing. So do everything with intent.
Definitely. So, and then my next question is, what's your best piece of overall business advice? Would that be pretty much the same answer, or do you have a different one?
I've actually got a different one. I say this to the young guys coming through because recruitment's a hard game, but sales is in everyone's best interest at a company. If I always say your first job, someone told me my first job should be in sales. I didn't understand that, but I really get that now. Your first job needs to be in sales because whether it's selling a product, whether it's, selling a pitch, or whether it's selling your own promotion internally, it's a skill and you got to learn how to sell. And I always say it's not even the most technically proficient salesperson in the room that does the best. It's actually the resilience it creates in an individual. The one who can pick themselves off the floor after a hard day of selling, of just no after no after no. The person who can pick themselves up the quickest is typically the one that performs the best. So you definitely learn a skill, which is resilience, through selling. And I think that would then carry through your entire career.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't fail uni. No. I would travel more in my 20s.
And in your opinion, what's the key to happiness?
Balance. People chase happiness, right? They have it as a goal. How many people do you know say, I want happiness? That's my goal. It's like, okay, how do you quantify that? And they can't do it. The reality is people chase material things, they chase their goals, but as cliche as it is, it's the journey is 99% of where your time is spent. So, it's really important to keep that balance along the way, because the payoff is never as good as you think it's going to be, in my experience. Yeah, it's good, but it's very short-lived. But if you can have balance along the way, you'll have happiness along the way.
100%. What's the best book you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from it?
It's a book I'm reading at the moment. It's fantastic. Have you heard of Grant Cardone? He's got the 10X rule book.
Yes, I have. His office is actually like 20 minutes from where I live down here in Miami.
Oh, there you go, mate. Go and meet the man in flesh.
I know.
He's out of this world. I don't know if you've read the book, but the whole logic around what he's saying is that it actually takes about 10 times the actions you expect to get any significant goal achieved. So the logic is, if you're in a sales role and you're chasing a $500,000 target for the year, he just says multiply by 10. Make your target $5 million and just see what happens. And I actually did this exercise in my office, and everyone thought I was mad. Like, you're tracking for $500,000. That's what you want to do this year. I want you to multiply by that 10. Now, $5 million. It looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I said, just want you to put in some actions around what it would look like and what you would need to do to achieve $5 million in sales. We did this full exercise. Instantly, you can just see the mind shifts to a whole nother gear. It goes to another level, and you're just thinking, I've got to not just multiply my actions. I've got to work on multiple levels to even try and get close to that target. His whole thing is it's about 10 times the actions, because when you expect that it's going to take a certain amount of actions to get something done, you typically fall short. And as soon as it gets tough, you walk away and you don't hit your goal. He assumes that no one will hit their goals. No one hits. He's like, I don't hit goals. I mean, I achieve things, but on my 10x logic, I'll never hit my goals. But hey, guess what? If I get half the way there, because I've increased my actions by 10, I'm $2.5 million target in a year's time, as opposed to the $500,000 I want to hit. So the whole idea is just up the ante, just create massive action, and massive results will come from it. I love it.
And another note, just for the listeners, because you spoke about sales before, like Grant Cardone, for those that don't know, he is like a sales legend. So if you're going to learn sales, which, me and Brett both agree is a huge skill to have no matter what you do in business, Grant Cardone is definitely a guy to learn that from. He's incredible. So next question I have is, what's your favorite quote and why?
Oh, this is an oldie but a goodie. Albert Einstein said it best when he said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Again, in sales, you cannot expect results if you're just going to do the same stuff day in, day out and expect it to be different day in, day out. It's just never going to happen. So if it ain't working, change it up.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. The last question I have for you before we let you go is, where's the best place for people to find you online?
Clemenson or Alra, Australia's leading recruitment agency. You'll see us there. Thank you.
Perfect, man. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to the Business Blast podcast. And don't forget, if you're interested in a simplified way of becoming a published best-selling author, make sure to check out authorsunite.com. We'll catch you on the next episode.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.